just going to do a little sketchbook tour for you today, as videos have been scarce and that's nice and easy. I have been busy though doing this, and that's taken up most of my time. This was a sketchbook from 2016 and it's one of my favourites, so I just thought I'd share it with you. Thanks very much for watching, hope you enjoy. Hello guys. Sorry if this is noisy, I'm sitting outside at the moment, so you might hear buzzing and things like that. So basically this is my sketchbook. I use it for a number of different things, a lot of shopping lists, a lot of research, so I do a fair amount of writing about other artists, galleries I've seen, writing about pieces, my thinking. A lot of it is drawings of sculptures that I either have made, intend to make, or they're just a fleeting idea. Then I made some wax sculptures. I bent bits of wire and string, and then I covered them in wax as a kind of setter, so it set it in that way. A lot of things I like to record in my sketchbook are just textures and patterns and things. I'm a bit of like a collector when it comes to sculptural things. I like to collect bits and pieces and put them together either in a sculpture or collage, but also they can inspire me to do illustrations. And whilst this sketchbook is more sculpture based, I would become quite interested in illustration and make actual illustrations outside of my sketchbook, so this kind of accompanies a lot of other work that I've made during this time period. There's a few like recurring things that I've seen and noticed throughout this particular sketchbook is I like to use tape a lot and things that I've found from like workplaces. So I had this sketchbook during a time where I worked in a pharmacy, and also when I was working in an ice cream parlour, so what I've kept behind of those things have made it into my sketchbook, and they're kind of like, it's quite nice, it's like little timestamps for me. Oh yeah, and I had a thought about Jeff Koons, I think, but I never finished it, as you can see. I think something important to remember about sketchbooks is that they are a place to put your ideas down, and they're not necessarily like a finished product unless your art is solely showing sketchbooks or making sketchbooks. So my sketchbook is probably quite different to a lot of people's that kind of really tailor it and really create it well. Not saying that I don't like the aesthetic of my sketchbook, but it's just not as aesthetic as other sketchbooks because I use it in a different way, and I primarily use it to get ideas out of my head and onto paper, and then a lot of them take shape as art pieces later on. And some of them don't, but I feel like it's really good to look back at old sketchbooks and review things that I haven't made, and then I can kind of think about making it maybe in the future. I started making these lamination drawings or lamination cards, sculpture things, don't even know what they are, don't know what to call them. But I found it a very quick and exciting way of making little pieces of artwork that felt portable and personal in some kind of way. And I even toyed with the idea of making kind of website cards with this, but having them all individual and different. It feels like you can sort of carry a piece of artwork around in your pocket, and I really like that idea. I don't know who this guy is though, or this guy. I enjoy nature a lot, and I think I try to incorporate it into a lot of my work. in some way. I kind of like the mixture of synthetic and nature. I like the juxtaposition of it. They don't necessarily sort of represent full art pieces for me, but it kind of represents my kind of thinking that I was having at those times. So I do think it's like quite a good idea, if you're making a sketchbook, to keep little things that you have that are around you at that time. In this particular sketchbook, I can see that I've experimented with a couple of different mediums. So I've experimented with print, sculpture, laminators, cyanotypes. Oh no, sorry, I forgot to say jelly prints. And around this time, I think I bought my first jelly print, and I was just really interested in how you could create a kind of digitally printed look, but with practical tools. So I got really into just trying out all different kind of colours together, working out what colour schemes work best. I think it's good to keep the artwork that you're not most pleased with, just so you can learn from it. When I was getting really inspired by nature, I decided to take some inspiration from a book I have, and it is called Art Forms in Nature by Ernst Haeckel, I think. And he has lovely kind of, do you call them anatomical drawings? Anatomy, kind of like of sea urchins and anemones and things like that, and I decided to make some screen prints with those, and I think they came out really well. And I like to involve fashion in a lot of my artwork as well, so I printed a lot of these anemones onto t-shirts, and that looks really interesting as well. I'm interested in both, but I'm interested in making fashion more of an art statement. So yeah, I've played around with that a bit during this time. I did some rubbings of these cool like plates that were in a chocolate museum. They were like Mayan drawings, Mayan people. I keep all components of my work as well, so if I make multiples, or if I'm doing a printing process, I'll keep like the acetate with the drawing on it, because I think that's interesting. Also, if you do keep the acetate, it means you can make another print again, so kind of handy as well. I'm on the hunt at the moment for some matte laminating pouches, because whilst I really love laminating leaves and various nature things, I'm always a bit disappointed with it being so shiny, so I'm gonna be on the lookout for matte laminating pouches. That's reminded me looking at this. I think the further towards the back of the book I go, the work becomes more exciting, because I think I started out with this idea of it being very clean and having lots of pictures with writing next to it, and then I go back to my default, which is just to pack it full of interesting stuff. And if you haven't noticed, this is quite a stuffed sketchbook, especially towards the back. So these are all my tester things. They're not necessarily pieces of artwork, I wouldn't call them that. They're kind of trials, ink trials, jelly printing trials. Some of the ones that I think are worth something I'll frame, or I'll turn into something else. And my sketchbooks, I would never say are complete. I mean, there's a lot of blank pages where I've written one word down and I've had a thought, but the thought has kind of just disappeared over time. But I just leave that as it is. I don't go back and fill in sometimes, because I think once the moment has passed, it's passed. You should move on to the next moment. And don't worry too much about feeling like your sketchbook should be a certain way or should look a certain kind of aesthetic. Whilst I always strive for that, making a really pretty sketchbook is kind of not within my nature. So, because I'm more of an automatic artist, I make things when I feel like making them. That's one of my favourite prints for some reason, that yellow one with the swirl. It's kind of nostalgic to me. It looks like a sort of 70s chair pattern or something. There's a collage with our Prime Minister on it, looking more like Shrek.
Somebody once told me.
Oh dear. So I think this is just about nearing the end of my sketchbook now. I hope you enjoyed my kind of weird style of art. I wouldn't really say that at this point I had a style, but that's kind of what a sketchbook's for. It's for experimentation, getting stuff down out your head and onto a page, and I think over time you can develop your style a bit more, or develop your sketchbook so it does become more kind of intrinsic to your artwork. And yeah, I just hope you enjoyed it. Hope it gives you a little glimpse into kind of what my artwork is about, or what it's like, or maybe you know less about what my artwork is about because this is an old sketchbook and I'm just blabbing now, so I'm going to say bye. Yeah, bye!